Greetings, everyone. It is the Ambassador coming at you with a brand new work video. And hope you all are doing well today. It is Wednesday. We're at Hump Day, halfway through the work week. So we're halfway there, folks. And today, gonna cover something a little more fun, a little more upbeat, a little more positive, trying to bring some positivity rather than covering negativity or being negative myself. And today we're gonna talk about what makes the ambassador laugh. And you might be thinking, well, ambassador, you're human, obviously. You can laugh. So what does make you laugh? Well, today we're going to talk about some of my favorite comedians, primarily my favorite stand-up comics and everything, because I have been a fan of stand-up comedy since I was old enough to watch it. And, well, you might be asking yourself, Ambassador, some of the guys you got on your thumbnail, they're not necessarily the most clean comedians. And, well, you would be right. But guess what? I wasn't always a Christian. But at the same time, we all need to laugh. It's part of human nature. And sometimes the less politically correct or even the less clean comedians, they're the ones that make you laugh. And, this is not me going on a big tangent about that and everything. That could be covered at another time. But I look at it this way. As long as they're not blaspheming God, as long as they're not being racially insensitive or anything like that, I have no problem watching these comedians. And, I'll start back at the beginning and everything in the matter of speaking. For me, my first exposure to stand-up comedy was quite literally Comedy Central, back when my family had cable and everything. But the wonderful thing about YouTube is I can find all these great stand-up bits on here and revisit them, and I don't have to worry about Comedy Central anymore. But my favorite stand-up comedians, well, you really have to start with two of the great granddaddies of stand-up comedy, at least from my point of view. And that was Robin Williams and George Carlin. May they both rest in peace. And yes, some people are going to say, Ambassador George Carlin, are you serious? This guy was like anti-Christianity, a lot of stuff. And I'm like, I get your point. But the guy tickled my funny bone. The guy was legitimately funny. I still have a couple of his CDs and everything from his later years and everything, particularly his career during the 1990s and the early 2000s. And some people will say, well, he just got angry and bitter. He was like that cranky, bigger old grandpa. And I'm like, you could look at it that way, sure. But for me, George Carlin was a giant. Honestly, I kind of wish he was still alive today and everything. I imagine he would have an absolute field day with the political landscape and the cultural landscape that we are currently existing in. I would guarantee you he would make a lot of people's heads spin and make a lot of, I won't go political. I'll just say he'll make some snowflakes not just melt, but evaporate. Because for me, George Carlin, he was a giant. He was a legitimately, at least I think he was, funny man. And he was very insightful. And I think that's one of the great things about these great stand-up comics. Not were they just funny. They could make you laugh, but they made you think. They made you think critically about the things that you might believe in or some of the positions that you might hold. But Carlin, for me, was king. He was king of the comics for his time. And, kind of another one of the giants that I just mentioned, Robin Williams. Why are all the good ones gone? Now, I'm not saying there aren't good stand-up comedians today. There are, and I'll get into some of them here in a few minutes. But Robin Williams, not only did the man have a great stand-up career, I think he had a good movie career, at least his earlier work and everything, like with Good Morning Vietnam and Hook and The Birdcage and Mrs. Doubtfire and so many others. But the man also had a very good stand-up career as a comedian. And I actually remember the first stand up bit that I ever watched him do. It was one I think is one of his very first performances. It was from I think the late 1970s. It was at the Roxy Theater in New York, and or maybe well, I'm not sure if the Roxy was in New York or maybe Los Angeles. Regardless, I remember watching it, and it was an edited version because it was on Comedy Central. But I've recently found the unedited version. It's actually there's a longer version of it where him and John Ritter worked together. But that stand up bit by Robin Williams and everything at the Roxy was my first real exposure to stand up comedy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want more of this. And of course, we had Robin Williams at the Metropolitan Theater, and you had his stand up bits and everything. I think it was called one from the 2000s or anything, Weapons of Mass Destruction or something like that. But the guy was legitimately funny. He knew how to really laser in on the truly absurd in society and just lambaste them. Everything just absolutely ripped these issues to shreds. And some people may say, well, Robin Williams was kind of one beat. You could look at it that way. And here's the thing, humor is in a lot of ways subjective. And that's the truth. Humor is subjective. But I think there are those comedians and there are those subjects that are legitimately funny. And for me, Carlin and Williams, they will always be two of the greats. And we lost two of the greats. But moving on. Moving to more contemporary stand-up humor. One of my favorites, and I'll admit, some of his stuff, it makes me absolute die laughing, is Jeff Dunham. Yes, you're going to say, ambassador, a ventriloquist, are you serious? Yes. Jeff Dunham, I really think, in a lot of ways, has really brought a resurgence for ventriloquism in comedy. And some of his characters, some of his stand-up bits, and I'll be the first to admit, me and Bam Ambassador, we have I think 2 or 3 of his stand-up or anything performances on DVD. Spark of Insanity, Arguing with Myself, Minding the Monsters, and there's so many others. But Jeff Dunham has really, in my personal opinion, taken ventriloquism and made it relevant again. Because for a long time, there were no ventriloquists, at least not well-known ones. And, some of his characters and everything, and there's some that I like and some that kind of fall flat for me. I'll be the first to admit. But by and large, Jeff Dunham makes me laugh. And, characters like Walter and Peanut and Jose Jalapeno on a stick. And, of course, Ahmed, the dead terrorist. For my favorite characters of his, always make me laugh, always make me just make my sides split wide open, metaphorically, not literally, obviously. But, the banter between Peanut and Jose is always, always a win. I mean it and everything. If you've never checked out Jeff Dunham, if you're thinking, who is this Jeff Dunham guy? Why is the ambassador talking about? Go check him out. You can find his stuff on YouTube fairly easily. You type in Jeff Dunham, you're gonna hopefully you'll find something there that will make you laugh. But a couple of others that I really have an appreciation for, and particularly now with the resurgence of his career, is Dave Chappelle. This man is a comedic titan at this point. His Sticks and Stones routine that just came, stand-up that just came out recently on Netflix. I haven't been able to watch the whole thing, but I've caught the biggest chunk of it and everything in clips on YouTube. But and I have caught some of his clips and everything from his show that he had on Comedy Central, the Chappelle Show, and his stint or his guest host on Saturday Night Live a few years ago. David Chappelle, he is, in my opinion, one of the most brilliant comedians in the world today. Full stop. The the buck stops here. The man is legitimately funny, and he comments on politics. He comments on society. He comments on just silly, stupid stuff. But he does it in such an insightful way, and you're like, yeah, this is legitimately funny. It's absurd. It's stupid. And, considering how goofy or how ridiculous current society is, it does deserve to be mocked and ridiculed. And David Chappelle is one of the best ones I've seen thus far that has done it. I mean, I absolutely died laughing at the clip and everything when he's talking about Jesse Smollett. I mean, and I'm not, obviously I'm not a person of color, but Chappelle just absolutely lambastes this guy. And I think everybody knows about the Jesse Smollett situation, but it's just, it's hilarious. This guy, I won't use the same terminology that Dave Chappelle used because obviously I can't, and I understand why I can't. But when Chappelle says, obviously this guy is clearly lying, so we were supporting him with our silence. And when he says us, he means black people. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so gosh darn funny. I'm just like, I'm about to die here. I was laughing so hard I was about to cry and everything. And that's when you know when somebody really hits you. When you're laughing so hard and everything that you start crying or your face starts hurting from just the ferocity of a person's humor or a person's wit. But another one that also makes me laugh, that makes me, whenever I'm feeling down the dumps, everything, and most of these people that I'm talking about, I watch when I'm feeling glum, or I'm just having a crappy day, or I just need to cut the tension a little. Gabriel Iglesias. I love this guy. I absolutely love Gabriel Iglesias. And he's one that I just recently discovered. I was like, I see him pop up everything on my feed on YouTube and everything, and I was like, let's just give this guy a shot. And his car sound effects, I can't replicate them. I don't have the vocal ability to do it. But when he talks about the couple of times that he's been pulled over by police officers, and he's talking about the one time when he just pulled out of the drive-thru at a Krispy Kreme, and he's got that box of Krispy Kreme donuts in the passenger seat. He's like, "Ooh, you're going to get it when you get home." And he's like, it's almost pornographic the way he's talking to this box of donuts. And he gets pulled over by this cop, and the cop walks up to the car. He's like, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" "Yeah, 'cause you could spend it." Classic, absolutely classic. I mean it. But Gabriel Iglesias is one that's really come on my radar. And folks, if you want a good laugh and you want relatively clean humor, Gabriel Iglesias can do that for you. So I highly recommend, if you have not heard of him, or if you have heard of him and you ever need just to break up the monotony of your day, and here's the cool thing. A lot of these guys and everything, they have channels on Pandora. So if you have the Pandora app, you just type in Jeff Dunham, type in Gabriel Iglesias. I'm pretty sure you can find George Carlin and Robin Williams. You could probably find Dave Chappelle on there, everything, and you can just listen to their stuff. And often during my workday, I do everything, because you gotta break up the monotony of your day. You gotta have a good laugh. So, but I'll close this out with one more, and this is this is a relatively obscure, well, maybe not obscure, but a little older comedian and everything. And he's more known for his film work than he is for his stand up. And that is, of course, one that I have covered on my channel, the great one, Mel Brooks. I did a stream about his movies a couple months ago. It feels like it's been longer, but it's only been a few months ago. But Mel Brooks is one of those guys that absolutely levels you with his humor. He is, I think, one of the greatest comedians of all time. And he's retired now. He's not doing movies anymore. He's not really doing stand up anymore. I don't think he ever really did stand up as far as I know. I think he primarily worked in TV and movies, which, hey, it works. But Mel Brooks is one of those comedians. Even after he is long gone, he will have left us a legacy of hilarity and humor that I think few people can surpass, at least in terms of cinematic humor, funny movies. The majority of his stuff has been spoofs, but they are good spoofs. They are like the blueprint for how you do a spoof of something well. And I can rattle off his entire catalog: Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, Spaceballs, To Be or Not to Be, The Producers. No, wait a minute. He didn't do The Producers. No, wait a minute. He did do The Producers. I stand corrected. He just didn't appear on screen in The Producers. Robin Hood Men in Tights, Dracula Dead and Loving It. And I'm sure there are more I'm missing, but those are some of his very best. Oh, History of the World Part 1. Can't forget that one. But, to close this out, folks, and you might be saying, Ambassador, you haven't really talked about any female comedians. And I'm not saying there aren't good female comedians out there. There are. But I'm not trying to be by any means sexist. Most everybody knows I'm not. But, hey, if there's a comedian that I missed that you dig, put it in the comments. Share some of your favorites. Share some of your favorite comedians and comedians. Wait a minute, I'll bring up one. And no, this is not to me. This is everything. It's not me trying to pander by any stretch. But and this is also a great one that's no longer with us. Has been gone for a very long time, and she was a alum of the original Saturday Night Live cast, and that was Gilda Radner. A great comedian, a great lady. She had a fairly good movie career and everything. I think, let's see, there was actually one she did with Gene Wilder called Haunted Honeymoon, if I remember correctly. So, there. But anyways, folks, I hope you enjoyed this video. And like I said, if there's any comedians that I missed or anything that I did not touch upon, put in the comments. Share your thoughts. Share some of your favorite comedians or anything. Share what makes you laugh. So, anyways, folks, I will see you all this afternoon for another installment of Afternoons with the Ambassador. This will be at 2 p.m. Central with my friends Adega Outlaw, Doctor and Author, and Mounds of Elysium, and we will be continuing our discussion of Babylon 5. So, y'all have a great day, and until next time, this is the Ambassador, signing off.